It's time to go beyond. Hello and welcome everyone to Go Beyond, a My Hero Academia podcast. Each week we run you through the plot, differences between the manga and the anime, fan theories, and often some critical analysis of each and every episode of My Hero. This week we will be covering episode number 28, titled Midoriya and Shigaraki. But before we get into that, I would like to introduce myself, Von Hyde, alongside the amazing Mr. Chris Penwell. How you doing today?
Doing well. I'm looking at those thick levels.
Yeah, they're looking good. Like I said before, they got them good bumps. Yeah. That's what you look for in levels, is they got them good bumps. Yes. Okay.
And I'm feeling heroic today. I am good to go. I'm ready to record this podcast.
Oh, excited. Okay. I mean, as the listeners know, Chris now does not have COVID. He survived it. 100%.
Yes, I got a test, and it was actually quite interesting. So I went to the hospital to get checked because I was told to go on a Friday night. So like none of the offices were open for like a regular COVID check. So I went to the hospital, and I was just in the waiting room. And I was horrified because outside, like in the main hallway, there was a guy like screaming his head off, and I'm like, "What the hell is going on? He sounds like he's dying." So
I thought you were gonna say it's just a bunch of people like open mouth coughing or something.
No, it scared the hell out of me. And then when the doctor came in and did my swab, he's like, "You're very chill. Like you're not reacting at all to this." And the other guy, he said like, "Oh, the other guy, he was freaking out, dude." So thank you. So yeah, like he was screaming his heart out just for a swab. So
the nasal swab.
Yeah,
thing?
the nasal
like,
swab.
He was freaking out because he was putting something in his nose.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, I've heard it's pretty uncomfortable.
It's not that bad, honestly. But yeah, it can be uncomfortable, but it's not like, oh my god, It's not like Stain piercing your skin with his knife, you know?
Oh, okay. Way to bring him back to My Hero. I very much enjoy that. You know, I feel like I would be good at getting nasal swabbed, and that sounds weird, but I have a history of shoving things in my nose as a child. Roly-polies, which was not a good idea. That's disgusting. Coins, that was another one, because I've got big nostrils, so I can fit, at the very least, a nickel up my nose. And I once also tore the ears off of a styrofoam Pikachu and shoved them so far in my nose that I couldn't breathe out my nose, and they had to really pull them out.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I also put rocks in my ears once. That was the thing too. Yeah, I was a stupid kid, like real dumb.
Huh. Like, the only thing I can relate to that is just like a bee just flying right into my fucking ear. And
I thought you were going to say
horrible.
your mouth.
No.
I feel bad, but like just envisioning people, like my brother once, he works outside a lot, and he had like an Arizona. He just loves Arizona iced teas. So he had one. It's like the peach mango one. And a bee flew in it, and he like drank it.
Oh my god!
The bee was in his mouth and stung him a bunch. And I felt really bad at the time, mainly because when he was telling the story, I just laughed so hard. Like I just could not stop laughing. I found it so funny. He got stung in the mouth by a bee.
Ugh.
That would be the worst, though. I love bees, but man, that would fucking suck. I would chomp down on that bee. Like, that bee would be dead.
But once 100%. Again, bringing it back to My Hero, well, I guess in a way, like, have you ever tried Ramune before? That drink from Japan?
No, what is that?
It's a carbonated soft drink that has less sugar in it than its American, like, soda, right? And it's actually quite tasty. It's quite nice. It's very sweet. And yet it has a third of what sugar content you have in American sodas.
That's kind of
And
weird.
it's interesting because what you have to do to open it, you have to push a ball into...
Oh, I have had it before.
bottle. Yeah.
Yeah, those are so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's not like isn't it not necessarily carbonated? Like the ball is actually what carbonates it?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
So you push the ball in and then it's like...
So it's super fizzy.
Looks like a witch's cauldron. Yeah.
That's a really good sound effect.
Yeah, thank you. I'm proud of myself. Surprised it didn't somehow devolve into a New Jersey accent, because that's normally how it goes when I just do anything. But... yeah, no, I have had one of those. We used to have, like, Hastings. It was a store, like, all across the United States before it went out of business a couple years ago. And they had, like, all sorts of novelty sodas, and that was one of them. I've only had it once, but it was pretty dope.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. But speaking of pretty cool, this week's episode is, of course, episode number 28, titled Midoriya and Shigaraki, which covers pages of Volume 6 of the manga, 87 through 126, which is written, of course, by Kohei Horikoshi and animated by Studio Bones. Chris, tell me your opinions of this episode.
Yeah. It's not one of my favorite episodes, I have to admit. Not a lot happened during this one. It was a lot of, like, setting up the plot and setting up the next arc. I do like the fight and the energy and the animation of the first fight, you know, between...
the training between
the training between Gran Torino and Deku, yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Yeah, and that moment when he dives underneath the couch, he looks so cute.
And then, like, he just, like, slips his feet, like, under the couch as soon as Gran Torino mentions that he's hiding.
Yeah, he's like, I saw you go under there, and then his limbs just, like, pop in like a turtle. Yeah, I really loved that. Yeah, that fight was so cool, especially because, like, Midoriya's quick thinking and, like, crazy agility for being so early on in Full Cowling, like how he keeps it together. He was at the beginning of the fight, he was worried and couldn't really keep it together to even move, and then by the end of it, he's fucking bouncing off walls and shit.
Yeah.
Like, it was awesome. Just imagine if Deku, like, had his shoot style at this point. He would have fucking kicked the shit out of Gran Torino. I mean, let's be real. I don't think he's as, like, at like 5 to 8%, he is absolutely not as fast as Gran Torino. That's outrageous. But definitely, I think he could have at least laid a hit on Gran Torino.
Well, he said it's been a long time since I've had to dodge an attack, right? So,
yeah,
it's interesting how Gran Torino, you know, even at this point, is like, oh my god, this kid, he's already at this stage. Whoa.
I mean, something you also have to appreciate about Gran Torino is it seems like his training style seems very kind of like, I would say violent, of course, because he's just beating the shit out of Deku.
He's sucker punching him like twice during this series.
Yeah, he kicks the shit out of him, dude. And when you think about it, though, Gran Torino actually later on, when they're raiding the League of Villains hideout, he knocks out several villains within a split second, and he does so with one hit each. So if you think about it, he's really holding back against Deku.
Yeah, he is.
Like, he's hitting him a couple times, but he's absolutely not hitting him as hard as he could.
He's not getting bloody or something like that. Like, there's no, like, blood pouring out of his mouth or whatever.
I mean, except for that one time when he punched him in the face.
Oh, yeah,
that's kicked him in the face.
That's true. That's more comical than anything, though.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. But I like this episode. It's 100% a lot of setup. I remember watching this episode when it originally aired, and I was like, what? Come on, I wanted to see more Full Cowling. Like, I was kind of disappointed by the way it went, but I will say, I think that moment with Gran Torino and the Nomu on the bullet train is just so cool, how he very quickly, like, shoots over, kicks it, and then shoots off the wall and pushes it out. Like, that shit was dope. I loved it so much, and it's actually different in the manga. Like, he in the manga just shoots out the hole with the Nomu, and I'm like, it's so much cooler in the anime. Because it shows his incredible agility and his, like, ability to bounce off basically anything, like any surface. It's just so dope.
I will ask this of you. Like, it seems like Gran Torino is very strong, you know, and he's relied upon within the hero community. And yet, Deku never knew of him, you know? So, do you think there's not much appreciation for the olden days of hero work, I guess?
I don't think so, because there are like a lot of heroes, like how I brought up like Fourth Kind taking the chivalrous hero name. I believe that was an homage to Crimson Riot, similar to how like Red Riot is. Like I think they very much appreciate the old generation of heroes. I think the reason that Gran Torino isn't much in the spotlight is because he didn't want to be.
Right.
Like, he didn't want to be a teacher. He only did that to teach All Might, and he only did that for a year. And that was pretty much the only reason he actually got his hero license, from what I understand. I might be wrong about that. So I think Gran Torino, a main reason that he actually wasn't, like, not many people know about him is because, one, he didn't want to, and two, because he wasn't a hero, he was a vigilante.
Really?
I would assume. Like, that's me assuming. Based on the information of him getting his hero license so that he could teach. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I think he may say that he got his license so that he could teach All Might, but it's very possible that he means that he got his teaching certificate.
Yeah, he
I
seem
might
like
be wrong
the
about that.
kind of guy who would go against the law and, you know, act,
like,
I guess. He seems
vigilantism.
very careful. Yeah.
Also, I mean, the thing I find most weird about it is how integral Gran Torino is to so much of these fights moving forward.
Yeah.
Like, so much of the plot is wrapped around Gran Torino, like his aid against All for One. Like, they definitely, like, All Might really could not beat All for One in the Camino Ward without Gran Torino's help, and without, of course, like, Kamui Woods, because naturally, not really. That's not really true.
That's not right.
But Edge Shot specifically, Endeavor, like there are several heroes that help, but Gran Torino's also one of them. And later on, like, he really helps out Tsukauchi in the investigations. In season 4. He saves Tsukauchi's life and captures Kurogiri,
which is
in the process.
No small task. No small
Yeah,
feat.
exactly. So I totally get your point, and I do think it's very weird that there's not much about him, but I think that he's a very, like, Eraserhead type character where he didn't care about the spotlight.
But I would say Deku's a super nerd. Like, he'd know all these kind of, like, smaller heroes.
I mean,
it's still rather strange.
You'd also have to wonder, based on his proximity to, like, All for One and One for All, just in general, and All Might making sure that was basically, like, wiped off the face of the map so that no one would remember All for One.
Makes sense.
You'd have to assume that Gran Torino's efforts in that were also forgotten.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is obviously a whole shitload of assumptions, but I would guess there is a reason that there's not much about him. Not that he wasn't a hero before, or that, like, he didn't do a whole lot.
I think he did a lot, but it was hush-hush, kind of, you know?
Yeah.
Because he seems like he
definitely
has a very close relationship with the police, right? So if they wanted to keep something on the down low, then they probably rely on him to do some of the work.
Yeah, absolutely. So now that we're already talking about Gran Torino, why don't we just get into the episode with our plot summary? While Deku is finally getting the hang of All Full Cowling, the villains begin to make some moves. Will Ida finally get the chance for revenge that he so desperately wanted? Is that hero from the bullet train totally dead? You're not going to get the answer in this, but I really wonder if he is. Find out in episode number 28, Midoriya and Shigaraki. So we start off this episode with Deku finally unlocking Full Cowling. He the lightning is just shooting off of him. Okay, he's looking dope as shit.
Yeah.
I love it so much. Full Cowling is so cool. And this is where Gran Torino is like, you flooded your body with One for All, but do you think you can move without losing it? And he tells Midoriya to draw a clear line, show that you've grown since the sports festival. And he gives him 3 minutes to land a hit on him, which he then, like, I love it, he starts to limber up. Like, he stretches a little bit, and you're like, you're about to get your dick kicked in, Midoriya. Okay, that's what's about to happen. Like, when an old Sensei-esque character limbers up, you're like, this is not going to go well for you in many ways.
It's kind of a trope at this point, but you know what? I'll accept it.
Definitely. It's absolutely a trope, but it's dope as shit. So
it's
I'm
always
cool with
fun for, like, an elderly character kicking ass. You know, like, you saw that with Yoda in episode 2 in Star Wars, and that was fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's always cool to see, like, I guess would be, like, elderly Sensei-esque character, like, just taking someone to the mat, just freaking kicking their ass. It's just so awesome, because, I mean, let's be honest, especially where I live, we don't have, like, we don't treat the elderly very well, which is kind of depressing.
Yeah.
Our society's kind of fucked up in that way. And I love that, I guess, stories really appreciate the elderly and show that, like, they're, like, however much certain cultures might believe, and cultures meaning, like, I guess American culture might believe that they are essentially useless at this point. They definitely aren't, and they still have something to do, especially in, like, teaching younger generations, which is often what they do in stories, which is great. But Gran Torino just starts bouncing off the walls. He's looking dope as shit. He's shooting across the walls so fast that you can't even see him. He pops up behind Deku, and I love that Deku turns and catches him just before he's going to, like, hit him, but gets kicked in the fucking head. And it's just so good. I love it so much. And Deku loses his full cowling because of that. And I love that Gran Torino's like, what a shame. If you can't even react to this, how can you ever hope to save those who need saving? Anyone hoping to be praised as the symbol, or hoping to be praised as the symbol of peace, had better be ready to overcome this much. That's kind of an interesting way that he he phrases that. Anyone hoping to be praised as the symbol of peace. So, I mean, obviously, like, Deku, I don't think has ever necessarily said that he wants to fill the void, that kind of vacuum that All Might leaves. He says he just wants to be a hero like All Might. Do you personally think that Deku wants to be the next symbol of peace? Or do you think that, like, he understands the flawed nature of that, like, ideology?
Ooh.
I guess I'm going to support that a little bit with you knowing what happens in the manga without spoilers. Kind of just how hero society really weakens with the fact that they're here, like, their symbol of peace not only was outed as a frail man, and is not this, like, natural, like, not necessarily that he's not a natural born hero, but he's not the All Might that they thought he was. So they kind of broke that mystic shell of him. And because of that, a lot of people have actually started to believe a lot less in heroes. Yeah,
there has to be, like, this strong presence, this strong leader within hero society, you know, to bring hope to the people, right? So I think Deku
Do
knows
you think
that.
there needs to be one focal hero, though? Or do you, like, because especially in, like, what we saw, or what we will see in the fight with Stain, is that teamwork is kind of the best way to go about a lot of this. Like, how Ida wants to take Stain up on his own. I know this is kind of a weird analogy, but, like, he wants to take Stain on his own. But he can't. Todoroki and Deku help, and because of that, the world is a safer place, versus Hero Society currently is all obsessed with who's number one.
Yeah.
And instead doesn't focus on, like, heroes don't focus on helping each other out and making the world a safer place. Instead, they focus on, like, basically just getting up the Billboard chart.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but the hero agencies reluctantly helped each other out with the investigations. Is that correct?
Yeah, they do work together. There are collaborations, yeah.
Yeah, there
like
are collaborations.
in the raid on the Shie Hisaikai, that's a collaboration between multiple hero agencies.
But I do think you're right. I think Deku would be more into working together and, sharing the spotlight rather than him taking all the glory, and being that beacon of hope, I guess.
Yeah.
That's a very complex question. I don't think I'm ready to answer that yet, but
I guess I'll give a little bit more background detail and then we'll move a little bit more on. So maybe by the end of this episode, you'll be able to tell me. But the main reason that I say that I think the symbol of peace, that All Might was so flawed was because basically all of society was held up by a single column, which was All Might. And when that column fell, you immediately see crime on the rise. And they need somebody to fill that vacuum, which luckily Endeavor does. But what happens when Endeavor eventually loses?
I think it's gonna all crumble because Hawks is definitely not gonna be that symbol. He's not. He doesn't have that capability of being a leader in that way. He's more nonchalant, So yeah, I think it will crumble, and we'll probably see that. I think we'll see that.
Exactly. That's what I mean by like the ideology of being a symbol of peace is just inherently flawed. Whereas imagine if a lot of the students in class 1A, like we have kind of like the Holy Trinity with Todoroki, Bakugo, and Deku. Imagine if they become the top 3 spots, and instead of society being held up by like one of them or 2 of them or even just the 3 of them, instead it's actually held up by each individual hero. And there's a new age of heroes on the horizon. Like, everyone is a true hero instead of a few being obsessed with money and fame.
I think that's what it's trying to get at, with Stain being, like, against, fame and fortune. And, like, those themes are starting to settle in as we move further into the show, right? The whole idea. Another thing is like your quirk determines who you are, and we see that in the manga in an upcoming season. Very, very likely we'll see that, and we also see that with it's not Monoma. It's what's his name? Are you still there?
Are you talking about Mirio?
Not Mirio. The mind bending guy.
Oh, Shinso.
Shinso, that's it. Yeah, we see that with Shinso. Where his ability to take over someone's mind and have them immobilized. That's kind of scary, Yeah. But he wants to change that into something heroic, and I feel like in society, that there are certain things that are considered heroic and some things that are considered villainous, and those people are called those kind of like roles in society based on what they can do and what their quirk is.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Because Shinso specifically, people put him in the category of villainous, even though that's not what he wants to be.
Yeah.
And that's his whole character, is that he wants to be a hero while everyone thinks he's destined to be a villain. So yeah, I definitely do love that. I personally, I brought this all up just to kind of like cement my idea of, I don't believe that Deku will ever be the symbol of peace. Instead, I believe that Deku will be a symbol of peace, not the only one. Because I feel like eventually Deku has to fall. It's just inevitable. It's going to happen. He will eventually pass on One for All, and either he will retire or he'll die. It's inevitable. Something will happen to Deku. So building a society on the back of one person is just not a good idea.
And he kind of hates that too, that he has to be competitive with others. You know?
Yeah.
So if he's the one who carries One for All, right? Then he's going to determine the future of Hero Society, I think. And if that's the way he thinks, you know, I think it's going to change.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree. I think he, just like All Might, is going to usher in a new age of Hero Society. So, yeah. I can't wait to see that, because I think Deku will build something amazing. But continuing on with this fight, so Deku loses it, and he thinks very quickly, says that, like, Gran Torino is moving far too fast. He can't, like, get his full cowling back up. He just needs a second to think, and he needs a second to build it back up. So he dives underneath Gran Torino's couch, turtling, just pulls his legs back underneath, and as Gran Torino goes to, like, seemingly flip over the couch, right before he does so, Deku smashes the couch with seemingly just 5%. I love that Deku is slowly getting a handle of 5%, and he's not breaking his limbs trying to use 5%, which is hilarious that he would. And he smashes the couch up toward Gran Torino. It launches him closer to the ceiling, and in that moment, Deku gets that little bit of time he needed to push One for all the way through his body. And this moment is so cool,
it really is.
Where he full cowls again, and then just uses his arm and his legs to push off, and tries to, like, snatch Gran Torino out of the air. And Gran Torino, of course, just totally shoots around him because he has this amazing speed, and he can do so in midair, unlike Deku, or at least unlike Deku at this moment. And he shoots behind Deku, launches off the couch, and tries to hit him again while Deku has his back turned, but Deku turns around, and Gran Torino, I love that he has that thing where he's like, oh, you tried to get me with this before, but it's not going to work again. I'm going to take you down, brat. And Deku instead shows that he's not going to make the same mistake twice, and leaps in the air above Gran Torino, hits himself on the ceiling, and then uses the ceiling to launch himself toward Gran Torino, which he totally does, like, this Spider-Man-ass thing where he, like, stays on the ceiling for a second, and you're like, what? How? It's so weird. And then he launches down toward Gran Torino, and I love that he's like, smash, and he, like, tries to once again grab him, and just seemingly, at least in the panel in the manga, you could see that he scratches him a little bit, which is pretty cool. Gran Torino dodges it. He moves very, like, a small bit to the side, to the right, dodges it, shoots off of the wall, and then just fucking tags Deku. Just basically tackles him. And Deku hits the wall. He's all cockroaching on the ground. He's just not doing well. And Gran Torino clicks his watch, and he's like, time's up. That's 3 minutes. And I love that Deku says just preserving that state is really hard. He's not there yet. And I love that Deku gets this so quickly. Like, he goes from using One for All, or full cowling, in a state where he can't move, to later being able to use One for All continuously, moving without at all, like without a thought at all. It's so cool. I love everything moving forward. Honestly, I love all of the moments that existed before this, but I like all of the emotional moments. I really loved them, but this is when the battles really get fucking cool.
Yeah, they do.
Is when, like, I love Todoroki and Deku. I think it's one of the best fights in the entire series. I think it's absolutely amazing, especially visually. But you cannot overstate how cool the fights get because Deku can use his quirk now. It's so fucking dope. So, Gran Torino turns around and says, analyzing, predicting to find my openings, that judgment. You seem like the type who's always thinking ahead, kid. And he says, after just sparring 1 session, you've dramatically improved. Been a while since anybody actually forced me to dodge, because he got that little scratch on his face. He's bleeding just a little bit and says that he grazed him. And he says, like they're gonna have to take a break. Deku's like, nah, we gotta keep going and everything. And I love that he's like, we're gonna eat breakfast, and then looks over at the pastries and he's like, they're ruined. I fucking love that shit. It's so funny. Deku's like,
sorry,
go ahead.
There is a certain line I do want to focus on though.
Yeah.
This kid could be a real monster.
Okay, so
what do you think that means?
That's something that people point out a lot, actually, especially with the current arc in the manga. Which is weird that he says that. So a lot of people pull up a panel that I'm not honestly sure where it exists, because he doesn't say that exactly in the manga, and when we get there I'll point it out because it's kind of weird, the difference between the two. But yeah, no, I would assume what he means by become a monster isn't like in a villainous way. It's just meaning that like Deku, like once again, he learns so quickly that by the time he eventually masters One for All, he could be more powerful than any hero before him.
Yeah.
I think that's mainly what Gran Torino means by that. And just imagine Deku at 100% fighting Gran Torino.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be so fun.
And then, like, I think what makes him a real monster is that he has the brain and the brawn, and All Might never had that.
Yeah, I mean, All Might definitely, he has some version of brains, but he doesn't got that big brain. He doesn't got that galaxy brain, that 5-head, like Midoriya has. So yeah, I get it. I get what you mean. So I have to ask real quick, because this is actually different between the manga and the anime, and of course, like I reference the manga while we're going through this. Is this the transition between this? It goes to Tsukauchi and All Might talking, right?
Tsukauchi and All Might.
Yeah, where they're like sitting there talking about the Nomu. I think it goes to that, and then it moves to Stain in the bar.
Yes, and it also goes into
the other heroes,
the other classmates,
other internships. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, that's actually going to bring up a lot of my differences right now. So one, the anime. Okay. So I know why I did it like this. So what initially happens is this moves into seeing the other kids' internships being Momo, so Yaoyorozu, Uraraka's, Bakugo's, Kirishima's, and of course Tetsu's internships. It shows all of those in the anime, but it doesn't actually show them in the manga again. The only time that we really got to see them was before in the last chapter, very quickly, just quick snippets of it, versus in this chapter, or in this episode, you actually get to see like a more in-depth look at each one of them, like Fourth Kind scolding Kirishima and Tetsu for making a shitty cup of tea.
Yeah,
Best Jeanist combing Bakugo's hair into like that stupid hairstyle, and then his hair like blowing up. It's just so awesome. I love it so much. And I love that Best Jeanist is trying to polish the one aspect of Bakugo that's not heroic. And it's just so awesome. Like, Best Jeanist is such a cool hero.
Yeah, he's great. And Bakugo's like, damn it, I came to the wrong hero agency. Shit.
Yeah, it's so funny. Uraraka, I believe this is when they're doing the battle training.
Yeah.
And Gunhead like makes that weird thing, and she's like, he's so cute. It's like so weird.
What? I don't remember
that. When she not says he's so cute in like a lustful way.
Oh, okay.
She says it in like a he's being cute in kind of a weird way. Kind of like how Selkie tries later on to be really cute, and everyone tells him that he's not, but in Sue's head, she says that he looks adorable. It seems like that kind of a cute. Like, it's an adorable cute, not a like...
You just said that in a really weird way, so...
100%. That was my fault. I gave that more teenage angst than it actually had. My bad. Okay? I'm just really feeling it for these thick levels here in our audio. Mm-hmm. So... we then move to what would be a scene with All Might and Tsukauchi. Basically, this one is different between the anime and the manga because it was actually featured in the last chapter of the manga. In it just, like I mentioned last episode, it's a little bit different, but it essentially boils down to Tsukauchi telling All Might that they have kind of come to They've come to realize not only the origin of that specific Nomu, but how exactly he became that way. Saying that he was this low-level criminal and thug, but because he was experimented on with all sorts of chemicals and drugs and something else, he was implemented with multiple quirks. He has at least 4 other people's DNA in his body. And this necessarily should not cause him to have multiple quirks. So he then says that, well, Tsukauchi brings up the fact that somebody somebody working on these Nomu must actually be able to manipulate quirks. And this is when All Might is like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Nah, that's not happening. And I really like that. So he like buffs up and he's like, that can't be true. He can't be back.
He's kind of scared.
That's another difference. Yeah, that's another difference between the anime and the manga. He doesn't say that in the manga. So in the manga, the conversation between Tsukauchi and All Might ends with the detective telling All Might that the Nomu's multiple quirks had to be bestowed upon him by someone who can manipulate quirks. So when All Might like looks at Tsukauchi and has that like little bit of sweat dripping, that's where it ends in the manga. Versus the anime, where All Might then stands up, goes all muscled out, and says, "Don't tell me he's back again." That was a little bit of an addition, but I think it was very, very cool.
Very really needed. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's that emotional side of him again that we really love.
Yeah, it shows All Might's fear.
Yeah.
Which is something we really don't get to see. Like, we've seen All Might's happiness, All Might being goofy, All Might's anger, but we've never really seen his fear until that moment.
And that's why he's cooler than Superman.
100%, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say I love Superman. I like him, but I love me some All Might.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we then move to the bar, where Stain is talking. He says, to truly accomplish anything, one needs will and conviction. Those without it, the weak ones, they'll be weeded out. It's only natural. And he has stabbed Shigaraki in the shoulder with one of his blades, and he has his other blade on his throat. And he explains like that's why he's about to die, and I love that Shigaraki is just like all chill with it. He's like, I just got fucking stabbed, but it's cool. And he says like, wow, you're strong, and tells Kurogiri to get him out of here. But Kurogiri's like, I can't move, I can't, like, it must be the hero killer's quirk, which Kurogiri, without revealing anything necessarily, part of Kurogiri's quirk does not require him to move his body. So I don't know why he couldn't use his warp gate without moving. It's very odd to me, but whatever, we'll move past it. Then Stain goes on to say the word hero has lost its original meaning in this corrupt society rife with fakers and shams, criminals who aimlessly throw their weight around too. You're all targets in my purge. And he goes to kill Shigaraki. He like moves his blade towards him, and I love that his blades actually have multiple serrated edges. It's not like serrated on one side and a clean cut on the other. It's entirely serrated. I think that's just a really cool design. And Shigaraki then grabs it and begins to decay it. And I'm going to be honest, I think that this part of the scene is just too goofy. I don't think it's good because he grabs onto it and he's like, you see this palm? It'll kill you, kind of a thing. I was like, okay that was a little bit weird and over the top. Yeah. It was odd. But this begs the question, Shigaraki can move. So I have two things that this could possibly mean. One, do you think that Stain didn't actually use his quirk on Shigaraki because he's testing him, which he says he is in a second, or do you think that Shigaraki and Izuku actually share the same blood type? Because we eventually will find out within the next 2 episodes that Stain's abilities are actually, like, the duration of his time is actually weakened depending on your blood type. So do you think that he used his quirk on Shigaraki, and that's why he's on the ground and can't really move, but it wears off a lot faster than Stain thinks it will because of Shigaraki sharing that same blood type with Izuku?
I think you're right, honestly.
Okay.
Because remember, the title is Midoriya and Shigaraki, I think, right? Am I correct?
Yeah. Yeah, you are.
So I think in a subtle way, and we know Horikoshi loves his subtleties. I think they would have the same blood type, and that's there's something there that they share, like a similar kind of like path. Like one.
Oh yeah, they share a lot. There's a lot of
yeah.
similarities between Shigaraki and Midoriya.
And
that's kind of what makes him such a compelling villain, is that he's basically just the other side of the coin to Midoriya.
Yeah, that's what makes it fascinating, and it shows like how someone with such a different quirk and such a devastating quirk and a different family setup can really alter one's life, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. Like, it really shows that it's like a lot of who you are is actually, it's like dramatically tied to your surroundings.
Yeah.
And because of some people's involvement in Shigaraki's life, he's become, like, he originally wanted, I mean, this isn't, I'm not necessarily spoiling anything, and I'm not really going to go into it, but he originally wanted to be a hero.
Yep.
But obviously didn't become one. So yeah, there's a lot of similarities between Shigaraki and Deku, and I really love that. So Shigaraki decays the blade and says, you sure talk a lot. Conviction, huh? Nah, I've got nothing so grand as convictions, but if I have to say what drives me, I'd say it's All Might. He said, that piece of garbage and the society that worships him, I want to crush them all into dust. That's my conviction. And he then tries to swipe at Stain, who jumps off of him very quickly. And I love that Shigaraki's like, my wounds from last time it had just healed. We don't have a healer in our party, you see. So how about you take some responsibility for what you've done? I really love that he keeps referring to this in like video game terms. And Stain then says their respective goals couldn't be more further apart, but destroying the status quo, that's one ambition that we have in common. And Shigaraki says, get lost, just go home and die. I'm the type you hate the most, or whatever. And Stain says, I was just testing your sincerity. People show their true colors when death is staring them in the face. You are an odd one, but your will, I can see the seed of some warped conviction within you. He says, I wonder what that seed will yield. I'll deal with you properly once I've seen that through.
Do you think Stain will go after him later?
That is kind of an interesting question. I would actually, so not really spoiling anything. Stain gets shipped to Tartarus prison, which is the same prison that All For One is eventually kept in. I would actually like to see Stain escape, if I'm being 100% honest.
I think they might use his abilities to their advantage.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
In what way?
Just to disable, I don't know, oh, man, I'm really bad at names. Double, I think his name is.
Twice, that's
it. I was close. Just disable Twice from his emerging powers in the manga that we see. And also, Shigaraki is incredibly dangerous. We find that out later in the manga too, how dangerous he can be. So there's a teaser there for you to read the manga.
Yeah, 100%. You should read the manga. Fucking Chris is now just getting into it, like really into it. And like every week we're just constantly messaging each other about how good this shit is.
I'm just freaking out. And he's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. So then Shigaraki's like, deal with me. Can't say I really want this crazy guy as a member of our party. And Kurogiri says, Tomoe Shigaraki, he'll add so much needed firepower to our efforts. Our negotiations were successful and he can move now. And Stain then ends off by saying, we're done here. Send me back to Hosu. There's still something I've got to take care of there. And I have to talk about how gross Stain's tongue is. Like
I was
how
about to
lumpy
mention
his
that.
tongue is.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
It's so disgusting.
Yeah, it's gross.
Like we talked about it last week, how like interesting it is with the evolution of people's bodies to deal with their quirks, how he has this incredibly long tongue for his blood curdle quirk. Like that's cool, but his taste buds are so creepy and lumpy. I hate it.
Yeah, and it's numb as well. It's like lopsided. It's like, oh god.
Yeah,
gross.
It's spooky. He's got that spooky tongue. But then we move on to Manuel and Ida sitting there talking. Manuel says, well, with the whole neighborhood on alert, the villains don't seem to want to come out. And Ida says, I suppose you're right. And this is when he does his big expo dump, talking about how the hero killer, I knew as soon as I started researching, at each of the 7 locations he's attacked thus far, he'd killed or injured at least 4 heroes. What's his objective? He says, I don't know if it's an omen or not, but here in Hosu, my brother was the only victim to speak of. So he's essentially deduced that Stain is going to come back. And he said, like he remembers kind of Tensei's words, apologizing to him. And he says, there's still a chance that he'll appear here once again. So come on, I'll take you out myself, which is not cool.
No, he's my god, that shot is like one of the most villainous shots we see in the whole series, in my opinion. Like that lust for revenge.
Stain's death.
His death is just holy shit. Like you'd never expect anything like that from a character like Ida, you know, who's uptight. You know, he sticks to the law, but somehow he's been twisted in this strange way, right? So, it's very intriguing to see a character like this fall so fast, so quickly, you know?
Yeah, especially, I mean, this just shows what happens to a lot of people when they're like mentors or the people they look up to most are hurt or die. Like Tensei is the one person that Ida really, really looked up to. I can't say the one because he also looks up to Midoriya and of course other heroes, but Tensei was like his focal point. The reason he wanted to become a hero was to be like Tensei. So you'd have to assume that if All Might dies, it's fairly possible that a similar thing might happen to Deku.
I was just about to say that. Oh my god. Can you imagine?
It would be pretty fucked up.
If Uraraka dies as well, that would... I think that'd be
if
even
any
worse.
of the 1A students die, I definitely think Deku will kill someone.
Actually, I was going to mention that, and this is a new segment. Okay, you ready?
Oh. Okay.
It's a random question!
Oh, okay.
So,
it's a random question.
Do you think a class member of UA will ever die in the series?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You think so?
I think at the very least one of them will die.
Mm-hmm. Because so far the series hasn't had much stakes. You know, like they've very closely edged on the verge of death, you know? But like for the rest of the series to have a sense of gravity, I guess I think we need one person to snuff it. I think I don't know. It sounds horrible, but you know.
No, I could see that, like Horikoshi really ratcheting up the stakes by killing someone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could definitely
to show
see
that
that.
the villains are serious, you know.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, they kill a lot of people.
They do.
So they're definitely serious. But no, I think killing off like a main cast member would be kind of a big way to showcase that.
That'd be devastating.
Yeah, I don't want it to happen, but yes, I do think it will.
Yeah.
I think somebody in Class 1A will die. Especially because of all the shit that these kids get pulled into.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of outrageous. Like, moving forward into the manga, it gets so much worse.
Oh, fuck.
So, like, yeah, I just... one of these kids has to fucking die.
They're pretty much being conscripted at this point. In the manga, you know, from where I'm reading, so... You know.
Yeah, they're kind of, like, part of a militia.
I wouldn't go that far, but...
I mean... They kind of are. Like, they're not like holding back citizens, and they're not fighting a war, but they are actually kind of fighting a war.
They are fighting a war.
Yeah, just against villains instead of, I don't know, anybody else, invaders. But also kind of, you know, it's weird. Yeah, I see it. But this is when Deku gets his ass whopped by Gran Torino, gets knocked against the wall, and he's got that little bit of blood coming in. This is the third day of his internship. It's 5 o'clock in the evening, and he says, Gran Torino says that they have to stop because if Deku keeps only fighting against Gran Torino, he's going to develop some bad habits. Deku says, forget habits, I'm barely used to this at all, let's keep going. And Gran Torino says, no, that's enough. It's time for this phase 2. It's the actual internship. So Deku puts on his suit and they're going out to hunt some villains. Gran Torino says that fighting only him, of course, will not prepare him to deal with other types of opponents. So in this phase, you'll pit yourself against all different sorts. And Deku's like, I get what you're saying, but I don't think my heart's quite ready for this. And Gran Torino says, but you've already fought villains, haven't you? This won't even come close to how bad that was. It's far from home here. Yeah, it's a little far from home or here because they're actually going to go to, I believe, Shibuya.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And yeah, Gran Torino lays everything out, basically saying that population density, the more dense a population is, the more crime there is, versus more rural areas like where Gran Torino lives, there's a lot less crime. So they have to go to someplace way more dense, like a larger city, which would be Shibuya. And they are going to take the bullet train, which Midoriya says that they will then, he thinks about them then, passing by Hosu City, which is, he's like, maybe I'll hit Tenya up. And now, speaking of Tenya, we move back to Tenya and Manuel, which now is kind of like the weirdest conversation. So they are on patrol, and Manuel asks him, he's like, I really hate to ask, but are you after the hero? He's like, you're after the hero killer, right? And Tenya's super taken off balance by this. He's taken back because he thought seemingly he was being sneaky. He was not. And Manuel kind of lays things out and he says, I just can't think of any other reason why you choose my agency. I mean, I'm thrilled that you did, don't get me wrong. It's just, don't let yourself be motivated by personal grudges. We heroes don't have the authority to make arrests or dole out punishment. It's only because of advances in quirk regulation that we can use our quirks at all. But vigilantism is strictly against the rules, and if you're caught going off on your own, that's considered a major crime. And he says, I mean, not saying that the hero killer should get off scot-free, of course, just that you seem really serious about this. You have this intense look in your eyes. And he says he's just worried about Ida. And Ida's like, I really appreciate the warning. However, the urge, what can I do about it? He's like, I gotta fucking beat his ass. There's just no way around it.
He should have stopped him at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still really annoyed that Aizawa didn't.
Yeah.
That he didn't do anything about it. Because even Manuel noticed it, dude.
It's obvious. You know?
Yeah.
But Manuel, he's the 226th hero. 222nd hero. He can, you know... He could do a good job.
He definitely could. He could stop Ida. I mean, I I think that Ida needs to learn this lesson, but yeah, I definitely get it. So one thing that I want to point out that's actually difference between the anime and the manga is that Manuel's design is actually a little bit different. So in the manga, he actually has a pouch on his back, which we've talked about when I told you that he has like this unnamed water quirk that allows him to manipulate water, that possibly contains water, where is in the anime, he does not have that pouch on his back. He just has kind of like a utility belt-esque thing, but it doesn't have any pockets. It just kind of holds up his pants. So that's interesting. I would like to see Manuel fight, honestly. Like, we only see him, as far as I know, 2 times in the series, and he only uses external sources of water. Like, I don't see him bring his own. So I wonder how he fights off criminals.
I feel like we could see him in action in the anime, because we do see him come back in the manga.
Yeah, no, he does come back. He just doesn't do a whole lot. But yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. So a little bit of trivia actually about Manuel, and it's actually really interested and pertinent to this specific section, is that in an interstitial page, Horikoshi outlines that Manuel actually chose to mentor Ida specifically because he felt sympathy for the boy. So he knew what happened with Ingenium because, of course, like, he lives in Hosu City. That's where his agency is. So he would know that this massive high priority hero was paralyzed by Stain in his city. So he then went out of his way to, like, kind of offered to mentor and offered Ida this internship, not to bolster his own agency, but to help Ida. And I think that's kind of interesting and a nice little plot point, I guess, for Manuel. But now we move on past Ida and Manuel with Shigaraki and Stain standing atop a water tower. And I love it. Shigaraki comes out and he's like, so this is Hosu, livelier than I thought. And Stain goes on one and says, I will reform this town, but for that more sacrifices are needed. The necessary task that you mentioned earlier, perhaps, and that's Kurogiri. And he says, now you're someone I can actually get through to. And I love it. Shigaraki's like, why are you always picking on me? Like, what's up, dude? Why are you being such a bitch to me? And he continues on this kind of tirade where he says, hero is a title reserved for those who perform truly great feats. Too many are undeserving, just money worshippers playing hero. Until the society wakes up and corrects itself, I will continue my work. So I feel like this actually elaborates on one of my questions that I had before as to why Stain sees All Might as a true hero, and he believes of him as a worthy kind of person, and he sees the same thing in Deku. I think it's a mixture of, like, I think he sees Deku's resolve and ultimate, like, heroism. And I think for All Might, he actually respects him because of his truly great feats. I think that's why he respects All Might so much, because All Might is making bank as a hero. He's number one, dude. He's fucking rolling in the money. He's like, I got that fucking, like, that midnight Funko Pop money. He's like, I could buy it, you know? So, like, there's definitely a reason why he finds All Might kind of as this, like, as a true hero, I guess. But we move on. So Stain hops away, and Shigaraki says all that high and mighty talk, but he's not even past the small potato stage. It's almost precious how hard he's trying. And I love that Kurogiri's like, I mean, you criticize him too much. Like, he, in the cities where he is actually, like, come across, crime has actually gone down across the board, and they theorize that it's possibly tied to Stain, or that it's possibly tied to an increase in hero awareness, where I love that Shigaraki's like, well, that's great, so much for putting a stop to heroism. Hero killer, more like hero breeder, at least indirectly. And he says he says they're just different deep down and asks Kurogiri to bring the Nomu there, which we got to talk about some of these Nomu designs, dude.
I thought this was kind of random. It's like, yeah.
Really? Him just wanting to destroy random shit?
I guess that makes sense of him, though, because he wants to destroy everything. That's his main goal.
Yeah, he's just like, I want to destroy this shit, and he wants to make a fool out of Stain. He wants to keep him from doing what he wants to do.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, is what I'd assume. I kind of wanted to just talk about the Nomu designs because he has one high-end Nomu, which is the black-skinned Nomu. Those are actually called high-end Nomus. We don't find that out for a really long time, but I figured I'd just bring it up. And then there's the two kind of like lower forms of Nomu that are also there. One with wings and one that's just kind of like tall and lanky. So there's something that I brought up, I believe, in episode number 1 of this podcast. And I'm wondering if you remember it. There's something special about that Nomu with wings. Can you remember what it is?
Shit. Oh, I don't know. Can't remember.
You don't know? Okay, so in the first episode, the quirk doctor, Dr. Garaki, the person who tells Deku that he does not have a quirk, that doctor has a nephew who has a quirk that gives him wings. That or not? I don't think he's his nephew. I think he might be his grandson. Basically, somebody down the line in his family has a quirk that gives them wings. I believe that in some sort of official material, it has been either hinted at or talked about that either his quirk was implanted into that Nomu or that is him.
Oh shit.
That is that little fat kid with wings.
Oh my god, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, so I mean that could just be a theory, that could be in our like fan theory section, but I definitely I don't think Dr. Garaki would hold back. I think it might not be the child himself, but possibly just his quirk. I think that's definitely possible.
Yeah, because a theory is that he took Deku's quirk.
Yeah.
So the Doctor probably started small, and then he grew darker and darker, as he was just figuring out, oh, I can actually kill these people for stronger results.
Yeah, there's crazy shit happening, especially with Nomu. I think they're so cool. So we move on to Deku and Gran Torino on the bullet train, making their way to Shibuya. Deku's trying to reach out to Ida. I love that their icons in Deku's phone. Deku is All Might and Ida is just glasses. It's so funny. And then a massive explosion goes off. The train begins to stop, and a hero shoots through the side of the train with a gigantic crash. Is this guy dead? Yeah, probably. Yeah. He just got wrecked by a Nomu, and he's about to get wrecked even more when that Nomu fucking shoves his face into the ground. So, probably dead. Just to answer my earlier question, is he dead? Probably.
Yeah, probably.
And Gran Torino sees this. He shoots around the train and then pushes the Nomu out. Of course, Deku's like, what the fuck? There's a Nomu here, dude. That's crazy. And Gran Torino tells him to stay there as he launches the Nomu out. And Deku looks out to see just massive fires and explosions happening all around this place. And the first thought that Deku has is Ida. He's like, what's happening? What the heck? This is Hosu, isn't it? And then immediately once he realizes that it's Hosu, he's like, Ida. He's worried for him. Yeah. And I think that says a lot about Deku's character, and that he values Ida as a person and just in general as a person, but also he loves him. He's his friend.
Yeah.
But then we pick up once again with Manuel and Ida. They are currently still on patrol, and Manuel sees the explosions, and he's like, Ida, we have to run to the scene. And Ida catches out of the corner of his eye something down an alleyway, and I love that his eyes widen. He found something, it's like a eureka moment, and it's not 100% shown at this moment. It's kind of up in the air whether Ida went or didn't. But now we move over to Stain, and he has a hero pinned up against a wall, and he says, so flashy, what's that idiot doing? He's talking, of course, about Shigaraki blowing shit up. And he says, I'll take care of him later, but for now, I'll do what I came here to do. And this is something interesting that I want to talk about because it's different between, okay, so this is one of our differences between the manga and the anime. So in the anime, when the hero that Stain has up against the wall, which his name is Native, by the way, he says, "I'll kill you." Are you talking about cultural appropriation?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a thing, like, I looked up, I was like, what is Native's quirk? And somebody wrote cultural appropriation. And I was like, that is pretty solid. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
No one knows what his quirk is, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, that is a
It's kind of
choice.
yikes.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. But in the anime, he says, "I'll kill you," which is not a heroic thing to say.
I was going to say that, yeah.
That prompts Stain to say, he's like, if you're really a hero, then choose your last words more wisely. And of course, saying "I kill you" is not one of them. But in the manga, he just says, "I'll get you," which is entirely different. What he says is, "I can't move, you bastard, I'll get you." That's all he says. He does not say he'll kill him.
Do you think
so? It's very different.
Do you think the Viz and Funimation saw that as different kind of translations? Do you think that was a case where they're like, what is the original intent? Is it for more harm, or is it more neutral than that?
Yeah, I would imagine that they saw this more as an opportunity to like ratchet up the drama, and they're just like, yeah, I'll kill you makes a little bit more sense, especially with that like retort that's like, if you're really trying to be a hero, then choose your last words more wisely. I think it makes a lot more sense with "I'll kill you" than it does with "I'll get you."
Do you think that's I know, do you think that's a major criticism of dubbing, or like translating it over to English, just because
It's
you lose
possible.
that original intent? But
I mean, it's possible. They keep it fairly close.
Yeah, I think
the
so.
translators do. I believe his name is Caleb Cook. Is actually the translator for the manga specifically.
Right.
I don't know about Funimation who it is. But yeah, I don't think it's like a big problem. Most of the time, I think this is just a way to like ratchet up the drama, kind of a thing.
Right.
I don't think it's like changes that much. But speaking of this moment, we then see Ida come up out of the corner of Stain's eye, which Stain then just fucking like a crazy person swipes at him with this sword. If Ida wasn't wearing his helmet, he would be dead.
Yeah.
He's dead. It knocks off his helmet and his glasses, and Stain says, "Kid in a costume, who are you?" Ida then, like, kind of picks himself up, and, Stain basically says, like, "Get out of here. This is no place for children." And Ida's like, a red scarf, armed to the teeth with blades. Like, he goes through everything and says, "You're the hero killer Stain, right? I've been pursuing you, though I didn't expect us to meet so soon. I am." And then Stain cuts him off and says, "Your eyes, you're out for revenge, aren't you? Watch your damn mouth, or your age won't be enough to save you."
Mm-hmm.
And I love that Ida's like, Ida is like, "To save me, so you don't even consider me a threat?" Like, that's a slap in Ida's face. He's like, "Dude, I just bitch slapped you with a sword, looking the other way. You think I consider you a threat? Nah." I don't. So then Ida goes on one. He's like, "What's up, dude? This is who I am." He says, "I am the younger brother of a hero that you attacked, brother to the amazing hero among heroes, and I've come to stop you in my brother's stead. So remember this name for the short time you have left." He doesn't say that in the anime. He says, "You'll remember my name as long as you live," versus the manga, he says, "for the short time you have left," kind of showing his intention to kill Stain.
Yeah.
And Ida says, "I'm Ingenium, the hero's that's going to take you down." And I love that Stain's like, "So it's time to die." Like, he's like, "I'm gonna fucking kill you, child." And that is the end of this episode. I should say that there's also, like, in the interstitial pages for heroes, it's actually kind of funny. He lays out, like, their favorite things, and Manuel's favorite things are equilibrium and house plants. Those are Manuel's favorite things. But that pretty much covered everything that I have. Covered all my weird shit because I didn't actually have that much. Not a massive amount of manga differences. So it's time for us to hop over to A Hero's Journey. So how's it going for you this week, Chris?
Might have to skip this one just because I'm still recovering in a way. Yeah,
you're good.
I'm good. I'll be fighting fit for this week and I'll be losing weight.
Awesome. Excited to hear your update for next week, and I'll let you take it away for our last segment of the podcast.
First, before we move on to that, would you like to see a one-shot with the fantasy setting in the ED? Like, would you like to see an OVA of it or something?
Oh, are you talking about how it has, like, the ending of this?
Yeah.
The outro is actually, like, them in a fantasy
Yes.
world? I think it would be really cool, especially since they do the spin-offs like My Hero Academia Smash and Schoolhouse Briefs, and soon to be I think it's like team-up missions or something like
Sweet.
that. They do a lot of like spin-off stuff, so I think either like a movie, like an animated feature, or just like a short kind of like one-shot series about them in this fantasy world. I do think that would be really, really cool.
But maybe
that.
after they finish the whole series, just because, you know, I'm a fan of Hunter x Hunter, so I don't want to see it come to a standstill and we get no more My Hero Academia. You know, I want them to get it done, or like have the story complete rather than have it like with an overlooming kind of like overhanging kind of like non-conclusion, I guess.
Yeah, that would really blow. Well, I guess I believe the Hunter x Hunter manga is still going. And it has like a lot more than what the anime does.
But the creator has many issues with writing the manga. Like it's kind of like George R.R. Martin, if you're familiar with him and Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that he's taken forever to write the last book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe I might be wrong, but I mean, like the mangaka culture, the like entire culture of being and creating manga, being the author and creator of manga is so interesting in Japan. Like, we talk about crunch in the United States when it comes to video games, but those dudes got it rough.
Yeah.
Okay.
15 pages
they put out
in
a
1
chapter
week?
a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine having to draw that. Like, they have a support staff, and Horikoshi at the end of every manga thanks his support staff and basically says that, like, none of this would happen without them. But, yeah, it's just outrageous. Like, they have to put this shit out every week. So, I definitely understand why people have, like, series that they put on hold that they just, like, wait a little bit for. Like, there are times that, recently, as of the time of recording this, there was a My Hero Academia chapter. I believe it was like 277, 267, something like that. There was one chapter, and then the next one came out like 6 days later, less than a week later. It was very quick. I think it was actually 5 days later. And then the most recent chapter, the one that's going to come out basically like the next chapter, as of recording this, doesn't come out for 16 days. So either it's going to be a really big chapter, or it is possible that at times, like the creators actually take breaks for short portions of time and they take like a week off.
I'm totally down for that. They need breaks. You're doing awesome work. Yeah. Please take your breaks. Please look after yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, like the hiatus for Hunter x Hunter is kind of like ridiculous at this point. So there's that.
Yeah, I feel like there's something weird. I mean, imagine being the creator of freaking One Piece. That's like the longest running series of all time. It's like, bruh, you need a break.
Yeah.
It's been going for like 20 years.
Every week.
So that shit's crazy.
Oh my god.
Yeah, but I'll let you take it away to our last segment now that you've asked me a question.
So, Vaughn, who's your MVP?
Wow, this is a long one.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for you to slowly run out of breath. My MVP in this is Manuel. He is the only person, and I mean, he didn't actually stop Ida. Like, he didn't, like, fucking, I guess, beat his ass right then. But he, at the very least, he understood Ida's motivations and tries to talk him out of it. Like, tries to go about helping him. Versus, my major criticism with Aizawa in this arc is that he did nothing.
Yeah.
So, 100% my MVP, at the very least in this episode, has to be Manuel.
Really? Because like there was one thing where he just like stormed off and he didn't even notice Ida was next to him. So
yeah, he runs away and then Ida like pops away. Yeah, I'm not saying like, that's a great moment.
And then Ida's just lying there for like hours, just waiting for help from, you know, like if Ida wasn't saved by Deku and Kachan, or you know, or Bakugo,
Todoroki,
yeah. or Todoroki actually. Sorry about that.
No, you're
brain
good.
fried. Then that would have been a huge stain on his hero agency if he let him die like that.
I mean, that's a good pun you got there. That's a good
What?
pun.
There's a pun?
Yeah, you said that it would have been a stain on his hero agency.
Oh, fuck. That was unintentional. That's great. That's awesome.
But no, yeah. I mean, he's my MVP for this episode just because of that one thing.
Right.
But yeah, no, it is...
Sorry to shit on your
weird.
MVP.
No, the fight actually doesn't take that long. You said he's like laying there for hours. The episodes might be like 20 minutes, but I'm fairly certain it's similar to D&D,
exaggerating.
how every turn is like 6 seconds. Yeah. Like I'm assuming this is actually like a 20-minute ordeal.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I totally get it. He runs away. So who's your MVP then?
My MVP is Gran Torino.
Okay, another Gran Torino.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope. Why so this
Unoriginal.
week?
But I've once again, I feel like he's an awesome teacher to Deku. And then also, he kicked ass with that Nomu. He just kicked him out right out of that train, leaving letting civilians, you know, be safe and, you know.
I mean, he kicks it out of that train, but in the next few episodes, we'll see that he definitely has problems fighting it.
True.
Like, I love how he's trying to treat it like a normal villain because he thinks it is, and he's like, why is it just going after random citizens? Like, what the fuck is happening? And it actually takes Endeavor, like, intervening to stop to stop the Nomu, which, I mean, I feel like it would be very hard for Gran Torino to fight a Nomu.
Yeah, even when...
Yeah, I just think that's like a bad quirk mashup. It's similar to Bakugo versus Tokuyama.
But once again,
it's like
a true hero in this show goes out of his way, you know, even though he doesn't think he's going to win, he's going to go right in there and attack the thing, you know? And make sure
100%. Gran Torino's a true hero. Yeah. Like, you don't even know, bro. You don't even know, okay? He's great. But that is the end of this episode. Thanks everyone so much for listening. Of course, you can chat with us outside the show in a bunch of different ways. Follow us at GoBeyondPod on Twitter. We will, as of this week, when you listen to this episode, go to our Twitter account. We will be doing a giveaway for My Hero Academia Heroes Rising. It will be a digital copy, so just keep an eye out for that. What do you think we're going to do for the giveaway? Like, what do you think we're going to have people do? So I think we're going to do the standard, like, retweet, and follow. Yeah. But you were also talking about something else.
So, yeah, I want to ask you guys, who is your favorite UA classmate and why?
Okay, I feel like that's pretty dope. It will be a week-long giveaway, so we will just add everyone up, and then I will put it in the list and just have like a random number generator, or we use a website kind of a thing, to pick somebody, and we'll reach out to you and give you a digital copy of Heroes Rising. I'm super excited about it. I'm just waiting for the 28th when I can buy my physical Blu-ray.
Yeah, dude.
Okay?
Yeah.
Like, I want that steel case at Best Buy.
That's a steel case?
Yeah, so Best Buy actually does exclusive steel cases for a lot of things, including video games. And typically, you can actually buy them on their own.
Yes, you can.
Which I think is really cool.
I worked at Best Buy before, and yes, we had loads of them on the side.
Yeah, there is one for this, too.
Cool. I think I'm going to get that.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to as well. Either that or Walmart has an exclusive fig pin one, where you get a Deku fig pin.
Oh, that's cool too, though.
Yeah, which is pretty dope. So you can also follow me at Hyde Legion. That's Vaughn. So HYDELEGY. What the fuck? HYDELEGION. That's Hyde Legion. For all of my like dumb bullshit, please follow my Indie Games podcast at IndiePod for all of indie games news. And if you just like some dumb bullshit, Chris, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me at twitter.com/CamyWoodSucks. That's twitter.com/CamyWoodSucks. Nah, not really.
One of these days you're gonna get a neck chop, dude.
No, you can really find me at twitter.com/PanmaRights. You can find my written work at...
Oh, you didn't want to repeat that one twice? You didn't repeat the real one twice?
At PanmaRights. Follow me there. But you can also read my written work at The Gamer and Tech Raptor. And I have an interview coming up with an indie game composer, James Landino. So that's really cool, and that's going to be on Game Grooves. So look out for that stuff. And you can check out my weekly gaming podcast, Active Quest. I believe we're quite funny, so listen to that there. And we have informative video game discussions that should be interesting to you. So if you like my deep dive analysis of My Hero Academia and you like video games, you probably would dig Active Quest as well.
You're also going to be starting up Let's Speak Geek.
Yes,
soon,
I
right?
am. And I guess I can announce this. You're going to be my first guest for a few months. So, yeah, there we go.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about urinals, poop, and all that shit.
I love that there's a decent amount, like this audience, unless they listen to IndiePod, I feel like don't know me like that. So it will be interesting.
Yeah. We're going to get into some geeky stuff. We'll probably be talking about movies because on TV shows because I've heard that you're really into that kind of stuff. And yeah.
That I am.
And we'll be diving into anime too, and where your love of My Hero Academia comes from because I don't think we've talked about that yet. So there's that.
Probably not. Yeah, I'm super excited for that interview. I can't wait for you to start Let's Speak Geeky, and I enjoyed it when you did it.
Oh, thank you.
It actually made me want to play Kingdom Hearts. Just saying.
Really?
That's like a big pro.
Nice.
Okay? I mean, I didn't play it, but it made me want to play
Awesome.
it. Okay?
Yeah, we were super geeky about Kingdom Hearts. And it's hard not to have a discussion about Kingdom Hearts with me. I love that series so much. And actually, if you do like Kingdom Hearts, there is something coming up with HP Critical, where I'm talking to Cameron Hawkins from DualShockers, Gerald Levi, and the crew at the HP Critical about Kingdom Hearts, and we go through each and every game. We explain the lore, and we discuss what we love about the story, what we don't, and it's great.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, we got into it, it's 3 hours long. So it's an epic.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. I'll have to check that out. But that is it for this episode of Go Beyond, a My Hero Academia podcast. Please tune in next week for episode number 29. Thank you so much for listening, and we will talk to you next week.
And before then, Kamui Wood sucks. No, go beyond!